All right, run the North, Will and Jason. The 2024-25 NFL season is officially over after the Eagles just absolutely walloped the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last night. Let's get into it. Jason, you were at a party. Sounds like you had some high-level takes. But, we can just start with the obvious. The Chiefs got whomped. What went wrong?
What went wrong was the Chicago Bears, okay? And it's not because the season was pathetic, but it's because their former head coach was calling plays for the Chiefs, and their former defensive coordinator who worked with him was calling the greatest defensive game since the 85 Bears. So there's my double tie back to the Bears. So obviously Matt Nagy was not calling the plays, but he's the guy, the influencer everyone thinks is the next. He's going to be the head coach after Andy Reid goes. And then Vic Fangio for the Eagles, he's not going anywhere because he literally got divorced from the Dolphins last year after one season to be there, and he did the head coach thing. He's going to be there for a while because that's just kind of where his slot is, and I think he's also content with that now that he's in his late 60s. So, kind of wild. Sorry to steal the thunder there, but that was, I don't think anybody called that. We were going through at that party you had mentioned. The parents of the hosts live in Vegas, and he brought 18 pages of all the different prop bets you could have betted on.
Oh my God.
Vegas. Yeah. So I have them all here. I'm not going to go through them all. I only got through about 3 pages, and I was probably going to hit on about 30 to 35% of them, which is not bad because I'm not a bettor. And that was just off of gut and flipping and check. Yes, no, no, yes, no. But man, that was, I don't think anybody had that except for the one guy hanging up by his ankles from the light pole in Philly, calling that type of an onslaught, man. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, you thought, at least I thought KC had a pretty solid offensive line. They got at least one Pro Bowler, maybe a couple, quality starters at least.
Couple.
And they just got manhandled in a way that was very reminiscent of a Vikings manhandling in primetime playoff games. I mean, the Chiefs just had no answer for the Eagles' onslaught. And, there's stats flying around. The Eagles didn't even have to blitz. Which I think this is a thing we've talked about all year with how do you, at least how did the Vikings struggle? How could they have improved? Where they blitzed nonstop and still couldn't really get pressure on the quarterback. And then you got this Philadelphia Eagles team where their defensive line looked like a bunch of men among boys. I mean, it was honestly pretty embarrassing for the Chiefs. It was rough. And
I'm going to take that point right there. I'm going to take that point because the Eagles defensive line, you had 8 guys subbing in and out. So that's 2 full start. Both of those lines could start on just about any team.
Oh yeah.
Which is ridiculous. And as we get to the end of the Super Bowl conversation and transition to the offseason, I've been saying this the whole time. Get the best players from the best teams. Those guys were all Bama, Georgia.
Yep.
People that are in the NCAA, like the championship tournament. So
yeah,
that's kind of, let's not overthink this type of thing. Sorry, keep ripping.
No, I mean that's just a great point. I really think it is the blueprint for a modern defense is in a pass happy league. I think teams that are able to get after the quarterback with 4 are going to be the most successful teams. Which then led me to, what's the next point is how do you beat that then? Which you're more of a football expert. I'm like, okay. Say every team starts styling itself after the Philadelphia Eagles. They get big, bad, bruising defensive linemen that can get after the quarterback. How do you beat that? What's the counter to that? In my mind, I'm like, okay, what, do you run outside a lot? Do you try and tire them out early on in the game so they're not as much of a factor in the passing game later on? But even then, if the running's not working, you're kind of out of options. So, what do you do when you're going up against a team with really 4 or maybe even 8 elite pass rushers on the defensive line? What's your counter to that?
Yeah, good point. So in a game-by-game situation, like in this game here, you saw Kansas City stubbornly stick to the game plan, which good teams do because they know it's going to work. What you try to, so when you can get pressure with 4, that means you're dropping 7, and a lot of that stuff is too high. The entire league is copycatted over into the too high, which means, simply put, prevent explosives, which are plays over 20 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That means that they're soft coverage. They're not going to allow that, or they're 2-man under, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the answer would be to run the ball and tire out that defensive line, because in the second half, you should have that ability. The one thing that Philly has that nobody else has, they have a second starting D line because they have so much depth there that's so rare, and they're not going to be able to duplicate that. And the fact that half of their front seven, they have Jalen Carter, second year, Jordan Davis, third year, Nolan Smith, second year. Like Josh Sweat's the only one probably going to leave. Maybe the backup three tech Williams, he might leave. But even then, you still have six guys that are real solid. Then to this point, you're right. Everyone's going to try and model after that now. It's been going that way, but now it's just going to be super prevalent.
Yeah.
And we're going to see defensive linemen rise in the draft, but also that means you need to kind of get away from this outside zone scheme that requires lighter, faster linemen. You're going to have to go back to power football. You're going to have to prioritize these guys that are all Mekhi Becton to 6'7", 300 and whatever pounds.
Yeah, just
because
mountains.
You have to be able to fight that.
Yeah.
And so that was the fun stat you saw. It was Super Bowl I was the average offensive line was 6'3", 245.
Yeah.
And then today's offensive line was like 6'6", 338. So it's like I was trying to explain to my wife, like, 3 inches and 90 pounds is like not nothing. Like, oh my God. And they're just as athletic, if not more athletic.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And side note that Milton Williams, is that his name?
Yeah, he's about to get paid.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of Vikings fans are thinking he's going to get paid by the Vikings because obviously that's one of our big positions of need is big defensive linemen that can get after the quarterback. So I'll keep my eyes out for that one in the offseason. But getting back to the game, I mean, so what was Kansas City's game script? Which I will say, you're saying they're dropping 7. The Eagles are dropping 7 in coverage. Xavier Worthy, very quiet, like 150 yards receiving, 2 touchdown game. A lot
that
of it
was
came
the whole
in
fourth quarter, though. Like, none of that
it was kind of all garbage time, but
quarters.
okay, I might be looking at him a little closer in fantasy football next year, but
he won me a title this year.
That's true. So
right on thinking that.
What could the Chiefs have done differently to win that game? I mean, they tried to get the running game involved, but it just never really worked. Patrick Mahomes is running for his life. He's throwing pick sixes to white boys. Yeah. What can they do differently? Like just bootleg him a little more? It did seem like a common problem was that he kept trying to step up in the pocket, and it's like the Philly guys were already there. I feel like he had to try and push the edges of the field a little more.
Yeah, it's the edges of the field because that you have that soft spot like on the outside corner of the field between the corner and safety if you're playing cover 2. If it's man, you just got to run man beaters. But the thing that they didn't do was max protect. And when, Kelsey's in there, he's not known for his blocking, and you don't really have a speedster other than Worthy. So one of the prop bets was DeAndre Hopkins, 2 catches for 11 receiving yards, and the guy I was with was sweating. He ended up with I think 2 catches for 18 yards and touchdown, so he got it. But there was a couple there. It's like they just were not able to get the ball out.
But how do you not? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins really wasn't a factor at all this season. It's like one of the in his prime, one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best receiver in the NFL. I mean, he's still in his prime. What is he? 30 years old? He's not that old. I mean, Jerry Rice was.
I think I would disagree with you. I think he's on his way down. I think that's why they traded him.
I mean, I suppose so, but you still would think that Mahomes would be able to utilize a really high, a wide receiver who at his best.
High IQ, great hands.
Right. And he dropped a pass early on, talking about great hands. How about Travis Kelce? No catches, 2 targets, no catches. You think he's just been partying too much? He's fallen too much into the celebrity lifestyle? Is he retiring after the season? This sure seems like it should be a season he should retire after.
Yeah, the dad bod and the haircut, huh?
Yeah, and the famous girlfriend and the commercials and all the celebrity appearances. Seems like NFL, he's like only thinking about the NFL like 20% of the time when he should be thinking about it 100% of the time because he's had a pretty big fall off this year.
Yeah, he's in his mid-30s, so it's like you kind of expect it, but the celebrity and all of the attention, I mean, it's got a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, saying a lot of things about, oh, he's great, how can this be? Blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, it seems like, let me say it this way. the Chiefs have done a really good job during the Mahomes era of redefining themselves. Early on, they had all these weapons and they were explosive offense. As the money kicked in and they had to start paying these guys, they had to redefine and redefine. Now they're a defensive team and runs the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't run the ball because Patrick Mahomes was their leading rusher with 11 yards through most of the game. He ended up with 4 for 25, still the leading rusher. Kareem Hunt, 3 for 9, Pacheco, 3 for 7, P-Ryan, 1 for 8. So it's like they did not run the ball at all. So they're going to have to invest up front too. But I'm interested to see what the next iteration of this team is going to be because they have like 4 or 5 guys that are due to get paid, and they're all going to get paid a lot. Karlaftis and McDuffie, those guys are on first contract guys going to second contract that are going to get paid, right? Trey Smith is a target for the Bears that I want him to get, especially because Ryan Poles drafted him in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And then what do you do at running back? Hunt's going to be gone. Do you need to get another running back? Kelsey's going to retire. Who's going to replace him? Noah Gray has been on the team, but I don't know if he's able to fill in there. How do you handle, I think Nick Bolton, the middle linebacker, is due for a contract, and he's going to get paid $15-20 million. So you're only going to be able to pay probably 2 out of those 5 guys I just mentioned.
Yeah. I think it comes back to drafting then for them, which they haven't done well. I mean, I guess you had Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. Are they going to be... Are they starting caliber? I mean, Rashee Rice, has he even come back next year? Is he suspended throughout the year?
He had an ACL after his suspension, so it was kind of murky there. So he could be the number 1. So even if they're both number 2s, I think that's a better situation with the coaching than you would say comparably to like the Packers, who have 4 wide receiver 2s and they're the greatest. But then you have the running back talking shit. It's like, we need a number 1 receiver.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, wow, Josh Jacobs.
And as a Bears fan, right? And as a Bears fan, I was gaslit into saying the Bears have the 3rd best receiving core and that the Packers had the best in the division. I was like, well, so which is it? Are the Packers fans idiots, or is the guy in the building who plays at an all-pro level over here, does he kind of know what he's talking about?
I mean, I feel like the Packers arguably have the worst in the division. I feel like the Lions...
Just ask them. You're wrong.
No, it's got to be like... I feel like it's got to be Vikings and Bears at the top, and then even Detroit. I feel like Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams are better than anyone.
Jameson came on strong, dude. So, like, that's something where I probably would still put the Bears 3rd. I would put you guys first. I'd probably put Detroit just because on sheer production and being in big games and producing. And then I'd put the Bears 3rd, but I'm not putting the Packers above any of those 3.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're diluted.
Yeah, Reed hasn't showed up in big games. Wicks has got like his own mental shit where he decides he wants to play or not. And then Watson's played only a 1/3 of the games he's been on. So who does that leave? Milton, whatever his name is.
Yeah. And
you got 2 okay tight ends, but like, come on now. Let's talk real.
Yeah.
Title tone.
Yeah. Just getting back to the Super Bowl and thinking about it. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, it was really a blowout start to finish. Mahomes and the Chiefs never looked really that competitive or like they had a chance. You thought maybe, at least I thought maybe in the second half they'd come out, hey, this is a championship team. They're going for a 3-peat. Maybe they're going to come out swinging, even though they were down, I think it was, 24, 25 points, which is what Tom Brady overcame against the Falcons. And there was just nothing there. I mean, they got punched in the mouth almost right away. I want to say it's like they started with the ball. I don't think they did much with it. And then the Eagles I want to say they had a long pass to Devonta Smith for a touchdown almost right out the gates. And it just took all the air out of the Kansas City fans. It's like, this isn't changing.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's take it a step back because, man, the buttholes puckered in the room where I was at, and just everyone's looking around like, oh, on that first drive for the Eagles, where it was 3rd or 4th and short, and they do that fade, the back shoulder fade to AJ 30 yards of the field, and then it gets flagged, and we're like, oh, the narrative, the script,
everyone was thinking that right away.
We're just looking like, it's brutal. I'm glad it didn't end up that way, but man, that could have been the makings of crazy.
For sure. I don't know. Maybe the Chiefs just got too deep into it, and the refs were like, "Listen, guys, we can't bail you out of this one."
One would hope.
Yeah, one certainly would.
So I'll give you. I got 2 thoughts, and we'll come back to it. Well, I'll give the one now, and we'll talk it through. Then I won't spoil the other one yet. Talking in general, we're obviously Mahomes is only about halfway through his career right now, like
Mhm.
9 seasons in. That was his fourth Super Bowl. He did not get the three-peat. Everyone's so quick to react. And the narrative was if he wins this one, goated.
Yep.
But okay, yeah, in history, sure, but he's not passing Tom statistically or, you know, as far as lore and consistency goes. Because the cool thing is, like I mentioned before, is that the Chiefs have been able to evolve. Same thing with Tom Brady. Tom Brady was a game manager for his first couple. Then he would, threw his arm out for the last couple. It just the opposite direction of it.
Yeah.
But you're still at 2 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls to Tom's 7. Right? Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, Tom had a long career too. He had a long career too.
Which is why I say so. Patrick Mahomes at 8 or 9 seasons, he's halfway to 17, 18, 19 seasons where Tom had 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd think with science he could get there if his arm stays intact. So like you're halfway there. Tom Brady, in over 10 years, he had 2 Hall of Fame careers. Like we know that Mahomes has had 1, but if you put them up side by side, it's always like when you see the Michael Jordan, LeBron James, it's like Michael Jordan's got all of these awards and LeBron's got half of them in twice as many years.
Yeah.
I'm just starting to think about that way of it. Are we overreacting too soon?
I don't think so. I think the thing about Tom Brady is the consistency. Is that how likely is it Mahomes is going to be able to sustain the success? And I'm going to flip this question around a little bit because I think you got to tie Mahomes' success to the Chiefs. And okay. I'll hit you with a really clickbaity question right here. Does this signal the end of the Chiefs dynasty? You talked about 100% 100% yes. You don't think they're going to come back from this? I mean, probably not next year, but I think a lot of things have to go right for them. Like you said, a lot of players that are going to have to get paid, and you can only keep a couple of them. Their last drafts haven't been great. The strength of the Eagles, the strength of the Lions, 2 teams that really ascended. They've been great because of how well they've drafted. I don't think you've seen as much of that out of the Chiefs. So you're thinking dynasty over. Are they back in the Super Bowl in the next 5 years?
Yeah, they are. Well, so my caveat is this, and I'm getting emotional from the way that I started this whole episode. If Andy Reid's around, they're a player, no matter what. Andy Reid's always a player. And I went into this game with the Tom Brady-esque approach. You're an idiot. You can't vote. You can't bet against him. You can't bet against Mahomes.
Yep.
But on the lore, and could be really true, when Reid retires and Nagy takes over, which it sounds like he's the heir apparent. Yeah, then I'm not. I got nothing on him. Simple as that.
At this point, I'm colored. My opinion is colored by the fact that I'm officially tired of the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is like his first Super Bowl run was great. It was so fun to watch. But the fact that there is this stereotype that they're getting helped by the refs really makes it hard to cheer for him. And then you look at the fact Travis Kelce, at the very least, he's not getting any better, and more likely he's probably retiring this year. Probably next. He's retiring soon. And I just think there's question marks all around that roster outside of Mahomes. Okay, they got some good guys on the line. Chris Pace. I mean, wait, did I just butcher his name? That's his name, right? Chris
Jones.
Chris Jones.
Defensive tackle?
Yeah. Chris Jones. How many years does he have left? He's getting up there. His output's probably going to start declining. I just don't think we're going to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl for a while. I think there's going to be a slow decline. They'll probably make the playoffs next year. They'll probably miss it the year after that. Maybe they'll be up and down. But I just think their era of dominance has come to a close, which hopefully that means Josh Allen can actually beat them next year. I'm really upset that a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl would have been so much more entertaining to watch, which easy to say in hindsight, but that was kind of a bar. It didn't feel like it was the 2 best teams going at it. Like the Chiefs did, like the Bills would have, I think, put up more of a fight.
So we were like 3 or 4 minutes into the second quarter, and the question going around, we're talking about those prop bets, was it was 4 or 4.5. I think it was 4.5. I think Vegas is a lot of halves. was the sack total against Mahomes. So sacking Mahomes 4.5 times or more was a prop bet. I think they hit that like early second quarter. And so I to the room. It was still early, but it was looking one-sided. I'm like, well, does Josh Allen make this more of a game just with the pressure? And not to say Mahomes can't handle the pressure. I'm just talking about they have a different way of evading and kind of powering through.
Yeah, Josh Allen's more physical. He's harder to bring down.
Yeah, it was a unanimous yes throughout everywhere, which was kind of not shocking because of the emotion and the momentum of the game. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's wrong. Then to your point of the Chiefs, it's kind of like the fatigue at this point. I mean, if my wife, who doesn't like football until she met me, and now she kind of understands fantasy, and she's, Taylor Swift and Travis, the cutest thing the last couple of years. Now that she's over it, if she's over it, and she's tired of hearing about Taylor and Travis, also, that was her favorite. Her name is Kelsey. She's like, I'm going to get a Kelsey jersey because I am Kelsey. Blah, blah, blah. If she's over it, dude, it's
It's over. I mean,
they showed in the script next year.
They showed her once, and she got booed. I think the NFL is receiving the message loud and clear. I think people are over the Taylor Swift thing, which, God,
I was more excited that they showed Anne Hathaway. I was like, all right, cool. Like someone we actually like. Yeah.
Which, God, that Taylor thing started last year, right? That wasn't just this year? Her and Kelsey?
It was 2 seasons ago. Yeah. Because I remember like the Chiefs played the Bears like week 4 and we got absolutely brutalized.
Yeah.
And that was every other play was her. And the announcers were like, well, 2 years later, here we are.
Yeah. Yep. I think that whole crate. I think Travis Kelce's gone. Taylor Swift is gone. Chiefs are going to plunge into mediocrity next year. That's my guess.
Well, it frees up another $17 million or $15 million, whatever he's getting paid. So something. Yeah.
Eagles, on the other hand, I think early betting favorites for the title next year. I mean, Lions are going to take a big hit from Ben Johnson leaving, which congrats. We didn't really talk about that. Even though Ben Johnson wasn't really the guy you wanted.
We're leaving this episode.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's all what else is there to say about the Super Bowl halftime show? Very polarizing. I thought it was okay. I liked Kendrick Lamar for his first 3 albums, and he performed no songs from his first 3 albums. So I was kind of like, Like, I don't really like his new stuff, and it was all his new stuff. He had his fun little moment with his Drake beef. But even then, I'm like, is he still hanging on to this Drake beef? Haven't we gotten over it? But I guess not.
I mean, he's doing the Super Bowl. You can do whatever you want, dude.
That's true. I mean, you can't miss that opportunity. Right. I don't know. I thought it was okay. It was certainly not one of my favorites or one that I think will be, like, remembered as one of the great performances. I see a lot of people saying, like, you guys don't, like, the metaphors were going over your head. And I'm like, I mean, I think I got the point.
I couldn't hear him rap. I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm missing some specific metaphors, but, like, I get it. He doesn't love America. He's upset with how black people are treated in America.
Yet they had the guys dressed in dancing and flags and red, white, and blue.
I don't know.
And Sam Jackson had Uncle Sam stuff on.
Yeah. I think my thing with halftime shows, it's like, regardless of whether it's Kendrick or whoever, in my mind, it's like, it's got to be someone that, like, the grandparents are that's gonna be palatable to the grandparents, or like to everyone over 60. And it's just like, the grandparents are gonna hate this.
Well, that was exactly it. I'm stealing that right there, because my dad texted my brother and I, and he goes, is this halftime lame, or am I just old? And I texted back, I asked the room the same thing. And then my little brother, who's 8 years younger, was like, no, it was actually pretty decent. I'm like, oh, shit, there's my answer.
Yeah, maybe we are just getting lame and old, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like Drake just doesn't have enough of that pop crossover ability. Like, his, I don't know.
And he's a basketball guy. He had the uvu with the Raptors when Kawhi won it. Remember, like, he's committed to that sport, not the NFL. So
yeah, whatever. I'm over it. Hopefully they do better next year.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, yeah, you know what's bad too? In the middle of Kendrick rapping, like, he's like 3rd song in, and my wife is like, you guys remember was it Sad Shark or Katy Perry's Left Shark or whatever that was a couple years ago? That was way more fun. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, that's right. She had the shark outfit thing. Yeah, that's right.
There were two of them, and the one guy like had a like he couldn't. I don't know. He just like wasn't. I don't know if he forgot the number or whatever it was, but man, it was funny.
Yeah.
I got one more thing about the Super Bowl, and I'm just glad to say it's official. White DBs are back. Let's
That's
go,
right.
Cooper DeJean.
Cooper DeJean, Iowa boy too. Love to see it. Shout out the Hawkeyes.
Hell yeah.
Hawkeyes. Love seeing that. What an exciting white, you know. Yeah, eager to see where he goes. Because I mean, I don't know what do they even have him playing, like slot corner right now? Did they have him at safety?
Of everything. He really is. I don't think he's playing on the outside, but he's walked down safety, slot corner, zone man, kind of robber type of thing, and he's damn good. He was returning kicks or punts rather. So I mean, do it all.
Yeah, the all-white teams finally got like a full defensive backfield. Love to see it. It's him and like, wasn't there another white cornerback that started last year?
Also for Iowa, it was something. I don't know if his first or his last name was Riley.
Yeah. That's
he might
right.
have gone to Denver, or I don't quite recall.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Look out. Coming for you.
Yeah. Yeah. My final thought on the Super Bowl. Only reason Jalen Hurts won the MVP is because you can't give it to the defensive line. Because I think that was the true. I was kind of hoping Cooper DeJean would get it, but there was just so much scoring and so many sacks. I'm like, it wasn't. If it was like a low scoring game and Cooper DeJean had that pick six, if it was like 13-10 or 13-7 and Cooper DeJean had a pick six, I feel like he's got to get the MVP after that for that. But
maybe.
I don't know. I feel like it is extremely hard not to give the Super Bowl MVP to the winning team's quarterback or whatever offensive player had, an outstanding game.
We had that conversation with the girls too, just trying to explain. It's like, well, Xavier Worthy had a great stat line. I'm like, well, because Kelsey said going into the game, she wanted Saquon to win it, and makes sense. And that was, before the game even started. So here's another thing. Obviously, they're not going to give it to the losing team, but say somehow the score was 22-21 and Chiefs win. Mahomes has what did he? I don't even know what his stat line is anymore, but he had like 250 yards passing, 225, maybe 25 yards rushing. Does it go to Mahomes because he's got another Super Bowl win and a three-peat dynasty, or does it go to the rookie with 8 catches, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns? Like Julian Edelman had one.
Yeah.
Like, who does that go to? You know what I mean? I mean, stupid, senseless conversation, but maybe.
Yeah, I feel like there would just be too much glazing for Mahomes. Like, it would have to go to Mahomes just because it's like his team. I don't know.
Does it go to Travis Kelce if he scores a touchdown and then proposes from the end zone to the press box? Does it go to him?
Probably.
All right, I'm an idiot. Let's move on. My gosh, so stupid.
All right, let's talk the offseason. Let's start with the Bears. You got Ben Johnson. I know you wanted Vrabel. Tell me you're not disappointed with Ben Johnson. I mean, he was the darling of he was the darling of the day. He was the darling of the season. Everyone seemingly wanted him. Yeah, you guys got him.
It's interesting. So I'm not disappointed. No, and that's in hindsight. Like, it's the first time in a while that felt like they did the right thing on paper because it was the right choice, not because they're trying to be the smartest person in the room or trying to find a silver lining in something that sucked. Yeah. And my biggest thing for him is like, I don't know the personality enough. And before we signed him, I was just looking up videos, trying to find some press conference, get a personality, get a feel for what's his mantra, what's his aura.
Yeah, what's his style.
Not to be all this. Yeah, exactly.
Is he a kneecap biter or is he like a Moneyball kind of guy?
It kind of feels right in the middle, which is sweet, but it was more, what's the reason I want Vrabel is the leader of men thing is so overused, but it's like you walk in a room, he's in the room.
Yeah.
And he's no bullshit, and exactly where you stand with the guy. And as I played in high school and college, I was like, that's what I respond to the best personally. And it seems like that's what we're hearing through the media that the Bears were lacking the most. So that's what I wanted answered. With that, like the day he got signed with the Bears, he comes in and everybody's cheering, clapping in the Hallis Hall, and he goes, "All right, everybody back to work. And then he just kind of had this power stance. It wasn't like in your face, but he just talking to everybody. Thank you. We're here to do a job. He commanded the room really well in a way we haven't seen before. And then he went through his introductory press conferences and then talked to the media. I listened to a bunch of the Chicago podcasts. What was interesting is that one of the guys, like, I've been doing this for about 10 years. What I found interesting and awkward is because I would ask him a question and then he would look at me the entire time instead of just talking to the camera, talking to the room. And so I had to stop. I couldn't take notes and I had to look at him the entire time. He was that engaging and it wasn't awkward. It was just like you felt the presence and he was intentional. It wasn't rehearsed.
Sure.
Because we're so used to like just like these corny, cheesy lines and you better get your running shoes and HITS principle and I got an acronym.
Yep.
And it just none of that felt that way. So I'm encouraged by that. To make the long story short, it just feels different. It feels right. Now it's going to take a couple years to translate to wins. So let's not get super hyped over our skis there. But like, okay, watching some of this stuff is like, I felt some juice, not because I'm hyped about the situation, but it's like, you're not some corporate idiot and you're not some yes man and you're not just full of hot air.
Absolutely.
So that's great. And that's such a low bar, I know, but it's definitely
it's who Caleb
noticeable.
wanted too. I mean, I don't think Caleb ever published a list of like, here's my favorite guys, but you know, there was those kids that pranked him and said it was Ben Johnson and he was like, yo, let's go, let's get it. But he certainly seems excited, and when he spent the number 1 overall pick on a guy, you probably want him to be excited about his head coach, which I called out in that in the what's the HBO show, Hard Knocks. I said right off the gate, I was like, Caleb and Eberflus do not get along. I can tell Caleb does not like this guy. It's good that he likes Ben.
That. To jump in there real quick, they played into that. Johnson heard about it because him and Amon-Ra talk and they're buddies and stuff. And Johnson's like, hey, it's actually me calling, and then sent him like a screen, like a selfie, and then actually got on the FaceTime to introduce him to himself. Like, oh, that's hilarious that he had the Bears are so tone deaf. We talked about that like when they fired Eberflus. Like they made the dude go to his 9 a.m. presser and fired him before lunch. It's like, oh my God. Brutal. And the fact that they got that little thing, it's so stupid and out there, but the kids know. And we know. And it's like, oh, you got something right there. All right, that's something.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys will be more dangerous. I wish we had like Hard Knocks on the Bears again next season because I'd like to see some behind the scenes stuff with Johnson. But I think the offense, you could reasonably expect them to take a step forward. I mean, Caleb showed flashes. Now, hopefully you build up that offensive line and give him some time to actually do something. Is Keenan Allen gone next year? Is that kind of a foregone conclusion?
Yeah. I mean, unless he comes back at a big hometown discount, which he will not do. Like he's already made that clear the day he got here. He's a free agent. He said Chargers, Rams, Bears were his 3 shot on the shopping list, but I'm sure he's going to command 20 plus.
Wow.
So he's going to demand it. I don't know if he's going to command it, but he's going to demand it.
Well, listen, you know, with how little you guys used Cole Kmet last year, like, I don't think you need him. It's like you got.
They will use him this year. They paid him $15 million. He was on the 2nd year of an extension. They're going to use him.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think you don't need Keenan Allen. I think you guys will have a better record next year than you did this year. I think, like you said, they made the right decision. They weren't trying to be the smartest guy in the room. You know, I expect big things from the Bears next year.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm going to keep the closest eye on with this is going to be, you hear it, but you never see it, is that Ben Johnson said, I don't have a playbook coming here. I have to get to know the guys and I have to know what they're good at.
Yep.
That was probably the thing that got me the most enticed. So that's the thing we also have to wait to see to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to look like Detroit. He has a mix of outside zone scheme and a mix of power game and does play action and does some shotgun. Like the biggest thing for Caleb is going to be under center game. You got to do it because that's where the league's going back again. Even if you're throwing the ball, like the play action and just get those run fits looking away, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
So I want to see him customize the offense to his players. Like that's what it should be. It should be talent over scheme, players over plays, which is super corny to say again. But if you can do that, you've unlocked so much more. Plus, you're going to get buy-in so much faster from the club, from inside the locker room.
Now, I'm curious about the running back situation in Chicago.
Me too.
Do you still have DeAndre Swift next year?
I think we have him for this season and next season. Last year we signed him to a 3-year deal. I don't know what the outs are. I know it's an average of $8 million a year. I also know that Ben Johnson's one of the reasons that he got traded from Detroit to Philly for like a 5th round.
Oh, so Ben Johnson might not like DeAndre Swift, is what you're saying.
But we don't have much else. I mean, Roshan Johnson was hyped to be something. He's not really a power back. He's just a straight line runner. He can catch, but not really, but kind of. He can pass block, kind of. But it's not the Sonic and Knuckles. I was
starting to edge in that direction. I was like, okay, so it's like
if you say Ashton Genty, I'm hanging up right now.
No.
Back at 10. Like
no, not at all. I was gonna say, do you think DeAndre Swift is gonna be Jahmyr Gibbs and is Roshan Johnson gonna be David Montgomery? But like you said, he's not really taking his system to Detroit. But you gotta imagine he kind of, I feel like those archetypes aren't really hard to fulfill. How about this? Could Roshan Johnson be the David Montgomery?
I have no idea, and this is going to sound like a cop-out answer. The line was so bad, I don't even know how good Caleb's going to be. And I mean that in a positive thing. That's fair. In his back. Like, it was just, you have former quarterbacks coming out saying he needs to get the ball out quicker, but also he doesn't know where his problems are, meaning where the hots can come, where his protection is. And the more that comes out, I got a +1 for Caleb. There was your local report that came out. I hope it makes national news once this all dies down, the Super Bowl stuff, is that Shane Waldron wouldn't watch tape with him.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane.
Is that not just fucking crazy?
As an offensive coordinator, that is nuts.
And the rookie didn't throw him under the bus, which is another like easy thing. I'm like, you're not doing it intentionally, but you could just like say something. It's like, hey, I want to get coached harder.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But like a step above that is like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing because no one's told me and I'm a rookie. Like, you could have easily done that.
Absolutely wild.
To know that dysfunction, how did you?
I mean, Zimmer wouldn't watch tape with Kirk Cousins, but like, at least Zimmer was the head coach, and he like, in theory, had an offensive and called the defense. But yeah, like, what the hell is the offensive coordinator doing if he's not sitting down going over tape with the QB?
And he's not an offensive. It's not like he's a head coach calling the offense. It's his only job.
Yeah. Just
you
wild.
were specifically brought here to specifically develop this one guy. So if there's any guy you got to watch tape with, it's that one guy. Forget the coaches. Forget it. It's him.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, enough about that. I mean, we go into free agency. We know, like, okay, we just talked about the Super Bowl. Offensive line, defensive line, got to be. Maybe safety because Byard's 32 and Brisker finished the season on IR after getting hit in week 5. He says he was healthy and cleared earlier, but they just left him on because they knew they were losing games. But I don't know if we're going to have either of those guys the whole season. Corners are good. Dennis Allen's got a scheme where it's going to be more aggressive than what we're with Flus, which is great. It highlights the secondary because he played with Dan Campbell at Texas A&M as a defensive back. So they played against each other. But they need more like power rushers as opposed to speed rushers. So Montez Sweat will fit that. The interior line will fit that. But it's really a defensive scheme that is aggressive and highlights the secondary. So we have a pretty solid set of corners if they have their heads screwed on straight. It sounds like he's got no problem bitching somebody out for failing because he's more than likely going to have the autonomy of that defense. So I don't have an idea of draft because we're what? February 210. 218 to 34 is when the franchise tag starts, and that's what really shapes up for free agency. That's when you can really set who you're going after once you know who's going to be on what team or who's going to officially be free. And then the 12th is when free agency starts. So 3 days before that's really when you start dealing that stuff in. Before that's the combine when a lot of these conversations happen, et cetera, et cetera. So by St. Patrick's Day, we can really start having that conversation. Who's going to get drafted? What are your needs still? Who, what, when, where, why? Because I think the draft is end of April in Green Bay. So I want hold me to this. When we talk, this spring, we're not close. I mean, we're not close to competing. Maybe there's a path to the playoffs this year if a lot of things go well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to get caught in the excitement, but regardless of how the draft goes, I think we need PBA. Or a BPA, best player available.
Sure.
Not best player available at left tackle. Not best player available at
you just
right
need
defensive
to
end.
Improve the quality of the roster overall.
You're so not there, and your new head coach and he's on I think 5-year deal, 13 million, which is nuts for a first-time coach. And then you just extended polls to match that, so they have the continuity that I was talking about. Should have happened, originally, but neither here nor there. So you need to kind of reset. I know you're excited. You don't want to waste another year of Caleb, which has got to be priority number one. But best player available, I think, sets you up for sustainability, especially because that's going to be a first-round pick on a rookie contract with your quarterback already in the second year of his deal.
Love it. Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
I think all Bears fans are looking for next year's, like, forget the record. They just want to see competency is the vibe I'm getting.
Shit, right? Like, 100%.
Like, as long as you show some fight and like, it seems like Ben Johnson knows what he's doing. I think that's all you can ask for. And like you said, get the team better next year, because you're probably not going to the Super Bowl next year. So just focus on setting that foundation for the future.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. If it's because the Super Bowl is going to be on February 8th, 2026, and that's in San Francisco. If it's February 10th, 2026, and we're sitting here and I'm having the same fucking conversation with you that, third year in a row, the Bears already won the offseason. Well, because we won it with the big trade with the Panthers. Then we won it by getting Caleb. Now we won it by getting Johnson. But guess what? We haven't been 500 in how long? If we're having that, I'm going to quit football. Like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave the Bears section of this episode on that, because I got 19 million questions about you guys.
Sure.
Who really, to me, is kind of pivotal how your season's going to go. Because are you a contender, or are you kind of retooling on the fly? Or where's this going to be?
I think we're officially I think we're officially contenders. I think it's like expectation is going to be. Well, I guess we got to lay the groundwork here. Sounds like Brian Flores is staying. I think that's going to be huge for our success. If he's gone, maybe we temper the expectations a little bit, given that his defense did kind of carry us throughout the season in a lot of portions.
Are you surprised he didn't get a job? Like, I thought for sure he was going to get interviews. I didn't even hear interviews.
He got a couple. I'm trying to think where, but he didn't really get a lot of traction. I think he is still a little blackballed in the industry just based on that lawsuit.
Okay.
So 1, Flores is staying. 2, I'm putting it at like an 85% chance Darnold is leaving. I just think that Raiders job makes a ton of sense for him.
Does that change at all with Rodgers now leaving the Jets?
I mean, I think there's a chance Rodgers does come to Minnesota. I think that would be so funny. That would be it would just be the funniest thing just to complete the arc. Because, I think the idea is ideally JJ McCarthy starts at some point next season. You got to be able to take advantage of that rookie contract. And so,
is that week 4, week 8, week 12? Like, because week 12 seems, if that's the plan, week 12 seems too late.
Yeah, I mean, if Aaron Rodgers comes, and who knows, maybe the Jets are just kind of cursed and they suck. And he has a Brett Favre-esque season, like when Brett Favre was on the Vikings. I mean, he has the tools. Granted, he had Garrett Wilson in New York, but that didn't work out great. I don't know. It would be fun.
To Justin Jefferson. Does that not just make you?
That just sounds, that sounds great. No, that sounds fantastic. No, I think the most realistic thing to happen is we let JJ McCarthy start next year and we spend a bunch of money in free agency. Or maybe not a bunch, but we start filling out, maybe we don't go after any of like the top tier guys, but we're going after kind of like the Van Ginkels and the Grenards and the Cashmans of free agency, where we can get them at value, and we think we can get more value out of them than their contract would imply. Sure. I think that's the most likely outcome, and see, hey, what do we have with JJ McCarthy and this team next year? And then I think 2027 is probably that year they got to go all in on like a couple big name guys. Because I think essentially JJ McCarthy is going to be a rookie next season. It's just like, when do rookies win the Super Bowl? Almost never. So I think next year you kind of kick the tires on JJ McCarthy, see if there's potential there, see if he's just a total train wreck. I don't think he's going to be a train wreck. But you get him that experience, you get him that starting experience, get him comfortable in that offense. Make a splash. Maybe Build the run game. Yeah, for sure.
Tell me what your plan is for that, because line needs help, we know, but Aaron Jones is old and probably leaving. Akers, I don't know if he's out of contract or not. And is Ty Chandler your guy?
He's definitely not the guy. Ty Chandler had an opportunity. I talked about this a bit during the season because he disappeared for games at a time where he just fell off the depth chart. I mean, we signed Cam Akers because potentially, of some performance maybe with Ty Chandler. I don't think he's going to be the guy.
Sign him or trade for him? I thought you traded for him.
Yeah, sorry, we
traded for him. Which is even more telling to your point.
Yes, that there's just not a trust in Ty Chandler, whether it's, it's, I think at least part of it is pass protection. Maybe he just can't pick up pass protection, and that's just like a non-negotiable. Like, hey, if you can't figure out protection, like you can't be on the team. I think there's a high likelihood we draft a running back, just given the swath of talent in the draft this year. I would be, honestly, it would be a very greedy pick, but if we got Ashton Genty, that would be really exciting. That would be really cool. Could take some pressure off.
What, 20?
There's very low odds that he makes it, that he falls that far, but you never know. Draft is still
Dallas
2
is
months
at 12,
away.
dude. They might do it. They did it with Zeke.
Yeah, that's true. But there's a lot of other talent in the draft, so I think we'll get someone. I think there's a chance actually we keep Aaron Jones, but again, he can't be the workhorse he was this year. Again, he is.
Is that going to be a new contract, or is it a team choice this year? Like, how's that work?
I don't know the specifics. I think we just had him on the 1 year. I think we just had him on the 1 year deal, but he's expressed interest in ending his career in Minnesota. So we'll see. I know they really like him, and he did great things on our offense. So I imagine we bring him back. But yeah, we need to get probably a rookie who can pass protect, but also hopefully has some of that kind of change of pace ability in him.
I want to see you guys, especially with a rookie quarterback. Run game has to happen. We know that, and just work off the play action. But
well, and you saw how successful it was when J.J. McCarthy was in Michigan. That's what allowed him to flourish.
No kidding. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that really just make me, now that the season's over, reflecting a little bit, upset me was that I understand Hawkinson's coming off a knee midseason, but the fact that he didn't get 7 targets a game, I would rather the ball go to Hawkinson than Addison. And I understand that's a more explosive, more sexy thing, but the consistency, the reliability, and how many, you're not looking downfield for your tight end. Your progression's 1, 2. If you're going wide receiver 1, then tight end, as opposed to, okay, deep over here, crosser there. It's you're doing a lot. And maybe that has something to do with the very heavy wide receiver focused pass game that had Darnold either seeing ghosts or just hanging on for a half second too long. There's got to be a check down built in, and why not be, when healthy, top 5-10 in the game, no question.
Yeah, I'm going to chalk it up to maybe he wasn't fully feeling 100% coming off that knee injury. Okay. Part of me really does wonder with Darnold, especially at the end of the season, you just saw huge lapses in his ability to read and make the right read, which is just so baffling because he was making great reads, in the third quarter of the season, and then the end of the season is just what happened? It's his first game in the offense or something. So it'll be interesting to see if JJ McCarthy just kind of cognitively, mentally can run this offense better than Darnold, and if that then results in some more targets to Hawkinson. I don't know. Not sure what KOC has planned. If I could request one thing, I would say I feel like we need more quick passes, especially with a rookie-ish quarterback. We'll see. I think if there's one thing that Kevin O'Connell, at least that I don't like with Kevin O'Connell's offense, it's just that there's too much long developing plays that gets quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold in trouble. So we'll see if he modifies his offense at all for JJ McCarthy. At all, really, we'll just see how the offense looks with JJ McCarthy. If it looks like the offenses of the past, or if it's adjusted a little bit, if we're using JJ McCarthy's legs a little more than we did with Darnold and Kirk Cousins, which is something I've talked about all season. It's I want to see quarterbacks run more. I think that's,
what we're evolving to.
Yeah, it's kind of what takes advantage of the current too high system that most teams run. But then again, you don't want to get your franchise quarterback injured. So, but going back to Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts had a bunch of really, really solid runs that just extended drives and worked well. I just feel like we got to see more of it in the league's current setup, and with defensive line's taking over. I think
it was a quiet 72 yards, dude.
Yeah.
It was a quiet 72 yards.
But that means 72 yards rushing from your quarterback. You'll take that any day.
Leading rusher.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you too. So I think you had the perfect segue to my question, and we've talked about this throughout the season. I think we talked about it when it happened, but understanding your line of thought with the quarterback going to the rookie, I think the football world's pretty much in agreement with you. And then you made a couple comments about KOC. Is he going to alter his offense to the rookie, which was what I was excited about to hear Ben say. Yeah, it's going to be, I don't have a playbook. We're going to have to figure out who these guys are. With that, are you now like excited about KOC, good seasons, shitty playoffs, new like turn the page with a new contract, new quarterback? Is there expectation immediate playoffs? Is there expectation give it a year or two? Because like generic stat is we have now 14 playoff teams. The turnover in the playoffs is even at least half of them won't be there next year. That's just how a statistical fact, whether you like the teams or not. So all of that context to say, do you like the extension? Are you hopeful for it? Or is it, I'd rather have the playoff wins than the good seasons? We know what ownership thinks, but what do you think?
No, yeah, I really like KOC. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a good offensive mind. I think, one of the tough things in the NFL is having patience with these teams and these organizations. And, I think something that's super critical success is continuity within the organization. And so
he's very relatable.
Yeah, being able to, hopefully we don't have a down season, but being able to get through down seasons and take it as learning experiences. I think Kevin O'Connell, him being a first-time head coach, he's not going to know it all right out the gate. So I like what I've seen so far. Obviously, he's gotten a lot out of the rosters he's been given. And I'm excited for the extension, excited to see what he does with McCarthy. And, hopefully he just keeps getting better. I think having the 13-win season is going to be hard to replicate. But, I think as long as we're successful, we get to the playoffs. Maybe if we can get 1 or 2 wins, that's great. I don't think we're a Super Bowl team next year. But if we can show that we can be a team to make it to the Super Bowl the year after that, that's probably the mark. That's kind of the benchmark where we're going to judge whether or not the season is successful or not.
For sure. And that's something too. That's a great point. Just kind of how the season is supposed to go. But looking at the Bears, and I know we'll play all the same teams, but how you finish your division determines who's home and who's away.
Yep.
The Bears have a okay home schedule, but they have a brutal away schedule. So I got to wonder how that's going to go. Like, I think we play all the AFC teams that made the playoffs. I'm not finding a quick article on it right now, but
I'm always a little hesitant to get to read into next year's schedule before week 1. You never know which teams are going to be good next year.
Well, I think it's Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals, things that you're probably pretty confident in. But to your point, you're absolutely right. To your point, is you never know because there's a whole lot of offseason to go, and the continuity, like you're saying too, it could be totally different. And I was thinking in the back of my mind while you were talking about Josh Allen as opposed to Mahomes in the Super Bowl, I'm thinking to myself, of the AFC teams, I would have liked to see Joe Burrow back there over Allen or Lamar. I know that the team's not that great, but man, I enjoy watching him play the game of football. I know his team has not been set up around him.
Yeah, I feel like he's honestly the closest you could compare to Tom Brady, obviously without the accolades, but I think the way he plays the game is the most similar to Tom. And
very
that
cerebral.
He is very cerebral. He's a pocket passer. He's a strong leader. He just puts up crazy passing numbers. But yeah, I would love to see him have some success. So I agree with you there.
All right, so I can't find an article quick on Minnesota, but here's what the Bears' schedule is like. It's not in order yet, but home games: Browns, Cowboys, Lions, Packers, Vikings. We know. Saints, Giants, Steelers. Away games: the Bears will be playing at the Ravens, the Bengals, Lions, Packers, Vikings, the Raiders, Eagles, Niners, Commanders. So the two teams that weren't in the playoffs of that whole thing.
But the Raiders,
Saints, and Giants.
That's pretty
Or
rough. Okay, that is
Browns
pretty
too.
rough. That's
So we have the AFC North, which is always brutal.
Yep.
And then you have two other teams that weren't in the playoffs. Other than that, like that's who we're playing.
Well, hey, listen, to be the best, you got to beat the best, right? So at least you'll, yeah, at least you'll be getting some good competition. I'm sure you'll squeak at least a few wins out against some 2024-25 playoff teams.
Yeah, Raiders, playoff teams, maybe not. I mean, Raiders, Saints, Giants,
you'll catch someone slipping. I know you guys will.
Well, the one thing I thought was interesting, like Amon Ra was saying on the podcast with Caleb, is that like they were no shade anywhere else, but like he said he was most afraid of the Bears over the Packers and Vikings when they played. So I don't know if that's just because of Sleeping Giant or because of who the guest was, but it's like, oh, that's interesting. I think more people are acknowledging the shitty coaching more than the bad talent.
Yeah. So
I don't want to get excited about that because, again, players know, but then at the same time, they don't. But that's a real interesting thing. So maybe there'll be a surprise thing. I don't think we'll see Nick Wright, proposing for the Super Bowl for the Bears this offseason, but I think 500 could happen if they get their shit together.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Lions too, a lot of talent, good contracts, and money's in the right spot, but they lost most of the coaching staff. So can he turn that over? Find a bunch of badasses that do it.
Yeah, we'll see if it's
DC. I think they missed on both sides of the ball. I think they're missing both sides are missing like their top 3 coaches, maybe 4.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if it was a Dan Campbell thing or if he was maybe getting carried a little bit by old Benny Boy and whoever the DC was. I'm blanking on his name. I can picture his face. Aaron Glenn, yeah.
He's with the Jets. He played for the Jets and the Saints as a DB.
Yeah. Conversely, they're also they should get Aiden Hutchinson back, which I'm scared of that. That is a bad dude.
Oh, yeah, dude. Good call.
Like they did that. I mean, the fact they had as much success as they did without Aiden Hutchinson for most of the year is pretty scary.
But that also felt, though, you think about it, that's the comparisons that we had for Flores. Like he's getting so much more out of the talent that was there than he probably should have. How much of that was Aaron Glenn? Like I would
hopefully all of it. Hopefully all of it, and they're secretly
right?
terrible.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then Jared Goff. Do we have to have another conversation about Jared Goff MVP season? Probably not. But if it happens again, what are we doing?
I don't know. We'll just have to see next season. I would love to see the wheels come off that franchise personally. They're getting they were getting pretty cocky. So, and just for the fact that they're also in my division, I hope they take a nice big step back. But
to knock them down a peg was hilarious when they're doing the whole Ben Johnson got hired by the Bears, and they're bitching that like Ben Johnson didn't get his full focus into the game. Like that's how every coach that's up for a job is going to operate. That's not new. Yeah. And then, sorry, you haven't been in the playoffs long enough or recently enough to know that the good teams lose their coordinators.
Yep.
So like, oh, he's not loyal. He's this, he's that. It's like, dude.
Happens every season, my friend. Yeah.
Right. There's nothing to talk about here. What are you talking about?
That being said, I do kind of wish. I mean, I suppose just with like the calendar, it can't work this way. I do wish that like coaching interviews couldn't take place until after the Super Bowl. Just because I feel like it does distract a little bit, but what are you gonna do? It's
well, if you're a shit team, you got to worry about it. If you're a good team, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, suppose so.
Did you watch real quick thought there? Did you watch any of the Pro Bowl stuff?
No, I don't think so. I saw a couple highlights, but it's such a joke. I mean, I'll throw it. I think we had it on at one point just to have it on in the background, but no, I actually, you know what? We did have it on. Now that I'm thinking about it, we did have it on just by happenstance when Darnold was playing in the game, and I saw him throw an interception. I was like, "Yep, that's my boy."
Sounds right.
Do an interception in the end zone. I was like, "All right."
Now we can let him walk.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
I had the same question posed to me during the Super Bowl, and I'm like, I didn't watch. But what would make me watch is if they brought back like the 2000s version, where you had longest throw, get your chalk covered ball and throw it against the moving targets or into the soccer net with the holes in it. Like that would be fun. That type of like a skills challenge.
Yeah.
but you can't. There's not another position I'd want to watch that for. And I think they've tried variations, and it got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
But to get some of the bigger names back, like, no offense, no interest in watching Sam Darnold if I'm not a Vikings fan, right?
Nope.
I want Mahomes there. I want to see Herbert. I want to see Burrow. I want to see those guys. I want to see Justin Fields run a 40. I don't want to see him run a football or throw a football.
Yeah. I mean, I think the flag football, I'm glad that they didn't take it too seriously. Like, they got, who was it? The wide receiver that threw like 2 picks. It wasn't Amon-Ra. It was
Keenan Allen. No.
It was a Jackson Smith
Njigba.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's like just funny stuff like that. I kind of like, but nah, I don't know that.
If I had time, I'd be into it for sure. But
if I had the time, but
right.
I'll just catch the clips on Instagram or whatever.
Heard.
Yeah. That's what I got time for.
Last thought before it actually happens. Myles Garrett plays for who in the 2025 season?
Wants to go to a contender.
A lot of people are saying Chiefs or the Eagles because Nolan Smith's going to leave. Josh Sweat's going to leave. And then my thing with the Chiefs is like, yeah, you need a pass rusher, but if you can't pay half your guys anyway, wouldn't you want to keep the guys internal and not give up draft capital? Yeah. So I don't know. Is it a shit team? Is it a contending team? Is it the Ravens?
I'm going to shoot from the hip and just say the Texans. I don't know.
Daniil, Will Anderson, and Myles Garrett. Oh my God.
Oh, right, yeah. I guess honestly, I forgot they had Will Anderson on the other side of Daniil Hunter.
But rookie contract. Stud, but rookie contract.
Yeah.
And CJ's on a rookie contract too.
Okay.
It could happen. I don't think it's likely, but it could happen.
Hold on. Okay. What about like the Commanders?
Okay, maybe. They got space. They definitely have space. I was thinking Cincinnati because they got a new DC. But you couldn't afford them because you're about to pay Chase, so that's out. Never mind.
Yeah.
That would be sweet though.
Bills?
Well, Miami has no money. Bills would make sense, but I don't know how long Von Miller is because he got a 6-year 140 a couple years ago, but he's not produced.
Damn, I did not realize I had him for that long. Yeah, just he's been so unproductive. I assumed it was like a.
But I don't know if that's an out
contract.
after 3 or an out after I don't know how that's. Well, it could be. The cap's not a real thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Dallas is thinking about trading Micah Parsons too. That's kind of wild.
I feel like that's a terrible idea.
You can't afford him. You paid Dak $60 million. You just paid CeeDee Lamb $1 bajillion. Your offensive line sucks, and you have the 10th overall pick. So, like, what are you gonna do?
I just feel like he's such a rare talent that you'd be foolish. But yeah, they already paid Dak. So, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Hang on. I want to see who's. I'm pulling this up right now. Who's got cap space right now? But I don't want an article. I want like Spotrac. Here we go. Because that'll tell me which contending teams might actually make sense. Like, I understand why he wants out of Cleveland. Like, you got chance.
Yeah.
Those guys suck.
You're wasting your career there.
Deshaun Watson contract, right?
Yep.
So New England's number 1, Vegas, Washington, Chicago, Chargers. That's the top 5. 6, Arizona, Minnesota. Detroit's actually got money. Holy cow.
Oh. I could see Detroit being in there, but I'll say Commies or Detroit.
Tennessee, Giants. Well, Cincinnati right now has got 44, but they haven't paid Chase. San Francisco is going to lose a lot of contracts, but they got to pay Purdy. Pittsburgh at 13, Green Bay, Denver, Rams, Jacksonville at 17, Philly, Indy, Carolina, Kansas City Chiefs at 21. After that, Myles Garrett, fuck them picks, Myles Garrett to the Rams.
Running back like they did with Jalen Ramsey.
Well, they've been drafting like I think the last 3 drafts they've had like 6 starters on defense that have actually played well.
Yeah.
I would honestly. So this is just the assumption that he goes to a good team and the Browns honor the request. What if he goes to a shit team like the Giants don't need pass rushers technically, to like Tennessee or Arizona?
Couldn't he just say no? I'm not going to play for them.
I don't know. He could.
I feel like
don't sign Mack or Bosa and go to the Chargers. Play with Harbaugh. That would be dope.
Interesting. So who do you think? If you got to pick one, who's it going to be?
I don't think anything. I really don't know.
Shoot from the hip. Make a crazy guess.
I would want to see him in Cincinnati. Who he actually ends up with, I think. I would hate it because I'm already over the Jaden Daniels saga, but Washington would make a lot of sense.
I think so.
Yeah, I think I'm not trying to give in to your bias there, but I think that's a thing to say. I don't think he goes to Jacksonville. Coaches fucked up Duval, so therefore you're worthless.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm as white as he is, but I can get that right. Like, buddy, do you have no friends to tell you anything? Like, come on, man, you can't mess that up.
Yeah.
Denver would be sweet. I don't know if they can afford him or if they have capital. Green Bay, no way. Giants, Tennessee, Cardinals, Chargers, Washington. Vegas has Crosby and the defensive tackle. New England, throw him $40 million. I don't know.
I don't think he'd go to New England. I feel like he's going to.
I think he wants to contend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But again, the contenders, like, it's not. I don't know.
That makes it the commies or the line. I mean, that I would hate that, but can they pay him?
Well, they're losing Josh Sweat, who's going to command 20, and if Garrett's getting 25, I'm sure you can fuck around with the best GM in the league. Fuck around, find $5 million.
I guess
it's more the draft assets than because that's really what keeps a team like that balanced, is not pushing contracts into the future and giving up draft capital. It's keeping everything healthy, young and affordable, and because right now, again, like I said, they're 18th, so they're right in the middle in cap. Usually the Super Bowl teams are all push chips to the middle.
Yeah, Howie Roseman's a good GM too, like you said. I'm sure if he wanted him, he can figure it out.
Right. Anyway, that's what I got for today. Thanks for going on that side
quest. Yeah, I am scraping the bottom of the barrel myself. I think we can wrap it up. Speaking of wrapping up, 2024-2025 season in the bag. Jason will run the North. Guess we'll catch you next season.
Man, that went quick.
Yeah. We'll do some off-season stuff.
We will. We'll be around.
Yeah, we'll be here.
We'll catch you.
Peace.